You, yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End the discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
The month of August always hit different for me. A couple years ago, my dad committed suicide. One early August morning, came to me, you know, crying, upset, visibly disturbed. Never seen him like that. Told me he needed help. Ain't too many times my dad done came to me and just flat out needed help, other than, you know, asking me to be a partner on whatever job that he was doing. But my dad asked for a firearm. You know, he wasn't big on firearms. Even though I had license to carry and I had holsters, he still didn't want me carrying no firearm. So when he asked me, it was like something got to be up. So I give him a firearm, and a couple hours later, I get the call that found my dad dead. So what was worse was him and I was on bad terms. Like you go through the cell phone, you see months of me and him having arguments and disagreements, you know, basically because I was, you know, turning into my own man, and whatever ways that he set out for me, they didn't work for me. So I became my own example. Whatever issues I had with my dad, even the way that he went out, once I realized by going through the things that I went through after him, I forgave it, because you don't know what people are going through, man. I'll never judge anybody, because I done been in some of the worst situations. That's why I don't play about how I feel. I get in these videos and I talk about the things that matter in life. I talk about the shit that needs to be heard, because there are men that need to understand. I know you need somebody. I know you're going through things. And I don't want to see y'all end up like my dad.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Now to Now, changing the narrative of men of color and fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. What you just watched was an amazing, just deep session of being vulnerable with my guest right now, where he shared a story of his father committing suicide. So I have him on with me just to share his story, just be in the present. And I'm happy he's here. He's multitasking, but I'm just honored that he's here with me right now. Good brother Demarcus, how you doing, brother? My first question to all my guests is, how's your heart? And the reason why I asked the question, because I'm an advocate about mental health, and I take it seriously. So how's your heart? How's your heart?
Oh, well, I'm sorry. The video actually lagged for like a second.
Okay. I'll go back. What did you miss the question, or did you?
Yeah, I didn't know if you asked anything after asking how was my heart.
No, I just asked you how's your heart. Yeah, because like I said, I take
great.
mental health seriously, and so my first question to every guest that comes on the show is, how's your heart?
Well, right now, healing and dealing for the most part. It's like I started understanding more about what trauma was. Just doing my own shadow work, confronting, you know, the flaws that I had, you know, to fix myself. So I say healing and dealing, because I went through 31 years of whatever I was, you know, programmed to think, to now, you know, knowing that to just reprogram myself and to, you know, look at everything totally different. So I'm still going through that process.
But I'm proud for you going through that process, because I think that's the important thing. Just men of color, we just have to go through that process of learning how to heal, because we were never taught how to heal. You know, we were never taught through our fathers. And sometimes our mothers, we were never taught these skills. So I think it's important we do that. Also, is there any tools that you through your journey to help you improve your mental health?
Absolutely, man. What I like to do is I like to research the things that I feel, because a lot of the times with us, we feel these things, but we don't know how to express what it is that we're feeling. Like, ain't nobody telling us about anxiety and stuff like that. Like, we don't even be knowing we be having anxiety attacks. And that was one of the things that I had to, like, do the research to find out, like, why every time something happened, I feel this way. Or when I feel bombarded, why do I shut down? So constantly looking for answers as to why am I doing that? I know I'm doing it now. I think the most important part is identifying what you're doing. Once you're able to identify it, now you can go and figure out what exactly is going on with you.
Facts, facts. And going to your evolution of learning about your triggers and your what triggers you and your mechanisms. Why did you feel like it was important for you to share your story of your dad committing suicide?
Because I talk about a lot of self-love and self-care, and I do it in a way that a lot of other men don't approach it from that aspect. You know, we are masculine, don't get me wrong, but we do come from women, so we do have a feminine side. And learning how to balance that out, like, you can give a powerful masculine message without having, it sound soft or sound sweet or whatever, but that's not my approach. Doing everything from the heart and giving that message is because it's like everybody see me making these videos about self-love, self-care, but this is what caused that. I didn't understand what self-love and self-care was until that situation. So that's about it.
No, no, and I thank you for doing that, and I appreciate you for sharing that video with the world, and that's why I felt like it was a point for me to repost it, because I think this is one of those steps of healing, is that we have to share, we have to be vulnerable, but at the same time we have to be willing to be mindful who we share it with. You know what I mean? Because we live in a world where people take advantage of our vulnerability. Sometimes people come into your life for agenda, you know what I mean? And so we have to be mindful about that. But again, the willingness to open yourself up, because that's the one thing you shared in your videos, that your father didn't learn that. Like, whatever he was bothering him, he kept it to himself. Whether I'm assuming he learned from his daddy, if his father was in his life. So it's learned behavior, things that we learn generational wise. But let's get into a little bit. Like, talk about, like, what was your relationship with your dad when you were a kid to as an adult, and before he passed away,
Well, me and my dad, like, we've always had like a close relationship, but it was built on the whole philosophy of tough love. Like, it wasn't like the affectionate type of love. It was that, I love you, so I ain't gonna say it.
Right.
So with my dad, it's like early years, man. Uh, Before he figured out who he was, or getting to the understanding of who he was, he had to make a couple mistakes, and it was like early years. I was exposed to a whole lot, and my dad went to like prison for like 6 years or so. And then by the time he got out, it was like everything I was exposed to turned into a behavior for me.
Right.
And it's like, it was at that point, it was like he knew the kid that he left behind, but with everything I was exposed to, I wasn't the same child.
Right.
And it took me and him a long time to get to the place and space of understanding one another. And it's like throughout the years, like we were always connected, but he always had his way of doing things, and I always had my way of doing things, which wasn't always the bad thing.
Right.
Like, my dad was one of those people, like, he knew his mistakes. All right, I got a plan for you. This is what I want you to do. And with me, it's like I have so many different gifts and talents, and believing in myself, and feeling like I was going to always be my success, and wanting to bet on me
Right.
versus, going into the military 20 years or something like that. So there was a lot of our disagreement. And by the time I got to like age like 24, 25, me and my dad finally had like this perfect relationship. And those last 3 years, we were able to talk about all the things that I needed answers for, you know.
Right.
So I guess me growing into my own man, I had to, you know, get to that, you know, mental maturity to have that conversation with him.
Right.
Yeah, so that was it. And like you talked about, learned patterns and behaviors. So when I was able to finally talk to my dad the same way y'all see me talk, he was blown away because it's like,
Wow.
wow, man, like that coming from you, like, yeah, this is me. Like I'm no longer hiding it, you know. And so around that time, it was like I didn't know he was actually going through things at the time.
Right.
I just know that me and him wasn't seeing eye to eye. Like, and the day of everything happening, that's when like the whole truth came out. Like his
Right.
wife called me and she explained like he had been having these mental breakdowns,
Wow.
but with black people, you know how we are. We ain't gonna
Yes.
talk about it. We're gonna hide it and all of that. So the man was already being sent to these different mental institutes way before the suicide.
Right.
And come to find out, he had already had signs of suicide 7 months before he came to me.
Wow.
Right. So I'm blown away by it because yo, why didn't nobody tell me? And
Right.
they were like, we knew y'all were on bad terms, and we didn't expect for him to come to you for anything.
Right.
And I'm like, yo, like I got stuck to live with it and deal with it. But
Right.
the best part about it was learning. Now I tell people all the time, I don't play about how I feel. I
Right.
speak on it. I'm not gonna sit there and let it build. Like, no, I'm speaking on it because I seen what holding things inside of you did. So that's pretty much everything.
No, man, and that's deep too. When your father, before he took his life, did he talk to you about his relationship with his dad? Because like I alluded to it or earlier, is that our behaviors are taught at an early age. What we see from our role models or our fathers, we pick it up. We might not say anything about it. We may not understand it, and we start adapting to how we see things as through a child perspective. And as we become adults, we start applying that to our life. We may not realize it, we not recognize what the problem is, but we learn it. Did your dad ever talk about his relationship with his dad, your grandfather?
Absolutely. With his dad was a reverend, a school bus driver. He was also a farmer. So his dad was a pretty well established guy. The thing was like his dad had pretty much showed him the way, but his dad died when he was 16.
Wow.
So at that point, it was like, yeah, he had older siblings or whatever, but he felt like he had to be his own man, and that's when figuring it out on your own go wrong. So
No, and that's very true, man. And I think that's a powerful thing is that, like, when people in that mindset, when they know their time is about to come, that's when they start opening themselves up more and just letting you in, like to just let you know, I'm assuming that this is what his way to tell you I love you. You know, I'm going through my problems. I'm letting you know. I'm not telling you direct what I'm going through because he wanted to shield you, protect you. So this was his way to let you know I love you, and he's proud, and he's proud of you. And the better way for him to show that was slowly open himself up, because from what you're telling me, he rarely opened himself up to anybody, right?
never did.
Right.
Like the first time I really saw him emotional and that vulnerable, like you stated earlier, that was the last day I saw him alive.
Wow.
So I felt compelled to give him the firearm. So when people ask me like, do I feel like, had I, made a different decision, like, like, do I think things would be different? At one point in time, I did feel that way, but after realizing, talking to my younger brother who lived in a home with him, and talking to his wife, and talking to his brothers that were around, it was nothing I can do about it. He had it made up in his mind, like he was just over it,
Right.
and I just so happened to be, the lucky person.
And I think that's important too, is that sometimes you can't save everybody. If you could look in the mirror and say, you know what, I did the best I could, that's all you
Mhm.
could do. You can't dwell of what could have done differently, what are the signs. Because again, when somebody makes their mind up what they're gonna do, they're gonna do it. They're gonna find a way. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But tell me like talk about your journey with your dad growing up. Like I know you told me a little bit. Do you remember any kind of fond memories of your dad growing up? Do you like did you guys have things in common?
Absolutely. Like, man, like realizing like a lot of the way that I mentally process things, and also like the funny side of me, like I realized like I had a lot of his ways, like everything. When it come down to it, it's like once he started reinventing himself, it got to a point where I got introduced to construction. I got introduced to, entrepreneurship, being my own boss, things of that nature. So it's like it's not too many days that go by that I don't thank him, like teaching me how to be good with my hands. Anybody unless
That's say that again, bro, because you kind of cut off. Say the last thing you said because you cut off a little bit.
oh I was oh I'm sorry. I was saying I'm glad that he taught me how to use my hands and teach me how to take care of myself to be my own man so I wouldn't need anybody.
And that's awesome that he did that, because that's the one thing too. I think what he was trying to do was trying to protect you from what he was going through. He tried to shield you. But do you think what kind of hindered your relationship a little bit was the ego? Like again, you told me that he went to prison, and then he comes out and tell you, "Oh, don't do this," and you're like, "Dude, you went to prison. Like you can't tell me anything. Like I see like the wrong you done." So do you feel like ego played a role in like your relationship a little bit, the hindering of your relationship a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. That's why nowadays, man, I don't live in my ego. I have no pride, like none whatsoever. If you can't accept how I feel or what I think, then I'm just not gonna be around you. But it definitely did. Like it's like it's like it turned into this silent competition between me and him because you gave me away, and as I grew, I realized your way wasn't the right way, and I was doing things my way. But he didn't know what I was doing because I didn't live with him, but I did live like right around the corner. Like we would meet to
Yeah.
the stop sign all the time. So when I watched him accomplish things, like I watched my dad go from being a two-time felon with all these drug charges to being, a lieutenant at the fire department, having his record clean and just being like, sorry, one
That's okay.
second.
No problem. Take your time, brother.
I'm sorry. Look, I was right now. So, but yeah, I watched this man go from being a two-time felon to being a lieutenant at the fire department. And at that point in life, it was like I knew like I could be anything I wanted to be because this man done did the impossible.
Right.
So it was always that, and like me just being like hell bent on trying to show him that I can do it. So ego and pride definitely had a big role in that. So
And that's awesome, man. And then also just talk about like everything that you learned from your dad, especially losing his life. Like what have you learned through all that experience to make you the person you are today, as well as, having kids? Like what are the things that your father passed on to you, that you're going to pass on to your children?
letting them know like how you feel matters, and don't be anywhere where how you feel isn't accepted. It isn't embraced, and knowing that their mental well-being has to always be important. Like if you're dealing with somebody that can't check on you to see how you're doing that day, or to just try to feel if you're okay, because I realize like a lot of the time with us men, we process things so differently that once we start taking on things, we a lot of the times we get silent. Like we don't have it in us to speak, even if we wanted to. We don't know how to. So just teaching our kids to always feel the urge or whatever it is, like get it out. I tell them that emotions are nothing but energetic outbursts. So emotions are always good. Don't let
Right.
nobody tell you you're too emotional ever. Stand on how you feel and let
Right.
that be that.
And I totally agree with you, man. And bro, this has been a dope conversation. This is the last question I have for you. Um, how do we break this generational trauma, especially in the age of social media, when we often see, you know, police brutality or just black on black violence, just violence everywhere. What are the things we can do collectively to end just generational trauma, just trauma just everywhere, because it's just everywhere we go. There's always something that's in our face to just to make us, you know, create this trauma bonding. That word I like to use, trauma bonding. So how do we break that cycle of generational trauma or bonding trauma?
Man, it goes back to you stated something earlier about being vulnerable. Understanding that vulnerability is okay when you know who to be vulnerable with. You know, black men, like growing up, like having this aggression toward one another, like getting to a place in a state of recognizing the value in between you and him, because he's somebody's son, maybe somebody's brother. At the end of the day, you know that it's somebody that cares about this person, just like it's somebody that care about you. And everything has a cause and an and the effect. So whatever decision that you make, you got to think about who you matter to and who that person matters to. So I try to connect with the younger generation like that, because you know I know how I once thought and I know what I figured out.
That's right. Facts. And one of my favorite quotes is, "You're not a burden, you're my brother." And if we come into
Oh,
that mindset, sky's the limit, man. Um, Before we end, how can people find you, brother?
hey, look, Black Boy to God. Check me out on TikTok, Black Boy to God, Black Boy THE God God. So you won't get anything confused. Instagram, Black Boy to God.
Awesome. All those links are going to be in the description below. Brother, thank you from my heart, man. I appreciate you. You have worthy. You're always welcome to come back on if you want to just have a conversation. Behind the scenes, we'll stay connected. Before we end, do you have a final thought?
Oh man, I just want to thank you for, giving me the opportunity. Yeah, it was a touchy subject for me, but everything came at the right time. And to know, like, there's so many men out there that have came out to thank me for expressing and speaking on these things, because I know how y'all feel. I know how you feel. I know what you're going through. And to be this person that's gifted enough to put it into words, or bold enough to put it on a video. So just connecting to souls, man. That's what it's all about. So hey, if you feel my message, look, follow me. I'm all about self-healing. I'm all about self-care and self-love. Like, we all we got.
Facts, man. And again, I appreciate you for jumping on. Again, make sure you guys like, subscribe, all that good stuff. That is not announced on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get all your audio platforms. I am there, and we out. Peace.
All right.
All right.